plan was voted down. 228 to 200 were responsible for the financial crisis. But it is a lifeline financed by billions in taxpayers' money. The consequences will grow worse each day. $100 billion bailout. If we do not act. Final agreement.
We're in an urgent situation.
Once in a century credit tsunami.
We're now skydiving without a parachute.
The House of Representatives passed a bill that is essential to helping America's economy weather the financial crisis.
Federal government Tuesday began pumping billions of dollars into U.S. banks.
The bankers inside here are responsible for the crisis. They're getting rewarded.
Wall Street! Wall Street!
Everyone around the world is trying to deal with this.
In Europe, thousands demonstrate, angry at tough economic conditions.
The banking sector has done to not only our country but on a global scale is such a big issue now.
But in Rome, anger turned to anarchy.
Another day of street riots in Greece.
This is the first Arab revolution of the 21st century.
Arab Spring that toppled regimes across the Middle East.
Mubarak deposed. Egypt's 18-day revolution defies all expectation.
Muchas gracias, Madrid. Muchas gracias, Manuela.
Syriza's voters have rejected austerity and pushed Greece in a new political direction.
Are you ready for a political revolution?
Donald Trump will be the 45th president of the United States.
We are going to start winning for our country.
So many people live in such poverty in a society surrounded by such riches.
One nation conservative government has been given a powerful new mandate.
That Syriza is just a continuation of the old administration.
The people are dying because of these floods.
Actually see it coming at you in a wall of flame.
What began in the UK a year ago has gone global.
Now to growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus.
I am officially declaring a national emergency.
A knock-on effect on global growth.
Mass protests here in the United States have sparked a global movement against racial discrimination.
Well, the world's 10 wealthiest men doubled their fortunes.
The world's richest 2,000 people have more money than the poorest 4.6 billion combined.
Reason to believe the Russian forces are planning to and intend to attack Ukraine.
Putin has accused NATO of having imperial ambitions.
NATO is more needed now than it ever has been.
What Putin has done, his war crimes.
War-based order.
Israel's multiple airstrikes on the Gaza Strip have already claimed hundreds of Palestinian lives.
Targeting healthcare facilities, ambulances, schools, refugee camps.
Really? How many more of us have to die here as civilians?
2/3 of the victims have been women and children.
Israel has the right to defend itself and its people. Full stop.
Israel has the right to defend herself.
When we say that this is the deepest crisis of capitalism, this is no exaggeration. I mean, for anyone who is now 25 or 30, they lived their whole lives after the 2008 crisis, from which capitalism hasn't really recovered. And this crisis is not just an economic crisis. We see an assault on all the conquests of the past. Healthcare, education, pensions is being decimated everywhere. There's no prospects for the youth of living a decent, independent life. It's very difficult to get in on the housing ladder. And this is just in the advanced capitalist countries. What we see around the world is massive poverty, misery, millions, tens of millions of people being forced out of their countries in search for better possibilities for life.
You can sense that it's now starting to crystallize in the form of a widespread questioning of the system, a rejection of the established parties, the mood that they're all the same, none of them do anything for us.
Basically what we are saying is that a long time ago the capitalist system has outlived its usefulness for the development of humanity, and it's now a system which is only based on crisis, war, misery, poverty, and a general crisis of society.
Det är allt mer tydligt i alla länder att det finns inget sätt för en bättre framtid, för en värdig framtid för någon om vi inte avskaffar det här kapitalistiska systemet.
The cost of living in the UK is rising and it's changing people's lives.
Clearly we have a crisis within Britain which has been taking place for quite a while, particularly from 2008. They haven't really recovered from this. And we've had 14 years of Tory government, of vicious austerity and attacks.
Can't afford to put gas and electric on most times. You put money on and it doesn't even last a week.
Well, several mornings and Michelle, my partner, has actually been in tears because we've had hardly anything in good of it.
On a eu, c'est un an après la première élection de Macron, cet incroyable mouvement des Gilets jaunes qui a eu un impact très puissant, qui a permis de voir aussi à quel point la société française était travaillée. On a une éruption de colère des entrailles de cette société qui concerne tous les travailleurs. Et on a vu à quel point les événements ont mis le gouvernement dans très très grandes difficultés et comment ce mouvement a fait paniquer la classe dirigeante, qui a abouti aujourd'hui à une situation où la société devenant ingouvernable pour faire appliquer les politiques d'austérité. Attaque contre les retraites, c'était l'année dernière. Attaque contre les chômeurs, l'assurance chômage. Attaque permanente contre les immigrés à travers non seulement des lois, mais aussi une propagande raciste permanente. Ça aboutit sur une situation aujourd'hui où l'Assemblée, la représentation, on va dire, parlementaire, politique est fracturée.
La crisis del capitalismo en América Latina es muy profunda. Algunos países están siendo arrasados por esta situación, particularmente Argentina, donde la crisis se ha manifestado en una inflación indetenible. Países enteros arrasados por la violencia, ya sea estatal o ya sea entre pandillas o ya sea del narcotráfico, que son como los factores desestabilizantes, ¿no? En algunos países el Estado ha prácticamente militarizado el país, el caso de El Salvador, por ejemplo, con Nayib Bukele. En algunos países, como en México, es la lucha de los diferentes cárteles de la droga los que tienen al país hundidos en una situación de espiral de violencia indetenible.
The crisis of capitalism has turned Pakistan into a living hell. The majority of the working class in Pakistan is living in extreme poverty, even dying of hunger, of disease, of malnutrition. Every day there are more attacks by the ruling class on the living standards of people. According to official figures, around 40% are living below poverty line. Around 48% of the children are malnourished and have a stunted growth in Pakistan. 28 million out-of-school children in Pakistan, and most of them are young girls.
Old imperialist, dominant imperialist power, the United States, which is still the most reactionary force on the planet, is suffering a relative decline. It can no longer control the world in the manner that it did in the past. And we see the emergence of new imperialist powers like China and to a lesser extent Russia. And this creates a situation which was already described by Lenin 100 years ago, a situation of war, inter-imperialist wars and the readjustment of the different imperialist powers which take place through conflict, in which hundreds of thousands, millions of innocent people are affected. We see that, for instance, in the war in Ukraine, which is at bottom an inter-imperialist war between an aggressive military power of the United States and Russia, which is now starting to fight back, also an imperialist power. Or the massacre in Gaza, in which, I don't know, at the time of filming this segment, we've seen the killing of over 40,000 innocent people by Israel, which is backed by the main Western imperialist powers. This is the real face of capitalism today.
Skulle det här vara det bästa mänskligheten kan åstadkomma, att massmörda människor i land efter land efter land för att några rika människor i de imperialistiska länderna ska kunna bli ännu rikare? Skulle det vara det bästa mänskligheten kan åstadkomma, att vi har 800 miljoner eller 900 miljoner, jag kommer inte ihåg vad det är, i svält världen över? Skulle det här verkligen vara det bästa mänskligheten kan åstadkomma? Självklart är det inte det.
We call ourselves communists. That must mean something. We call ourselves revolutionaries. That must mean quite a lot. But what is a revolution?
I remember consciously deciding I was a communist when I was 16 years old. I remember writing an essay at school. In Italian it was from my Italian lesson. Why I am a communist. I wish I'd kept it. I'd be curious to see what I wrote. But I remember deciding I was a communist, watching my father go to work in an engineering factory, literally working himself to death, which is what happened. He died at 54. Watching my mother work, listening to the stories of what they'd been through in the Second World War, the barbarism, the bombing, the killings. My mother saw young children being shot in the back by German soldiers. My father saw his town completely destroyed. He joined the Communist Party in 1946. The war radicalized him. He actually wanted to carry out a revolution. Unfortunately, the leaders of the party had other ideas.
So there's a lot of misconceptions about communism, definitely, due to the Cold War, due to the legacy of Stalinism. Communism essentially means working class people controlling society, right? Everyday working class people. If you're listening to this and you're a working class person, communism means you being in control of society. What we have now is a tiny minority. All the major decisions are not even made in the parliament, but even then they control the political parties. But all the major decisions are made in private boardrooms by big capitalists. And that's why the planet's being destroyed. That's why our lives are getting worse. We're getting increasingly impoverished. That's why you're having more wars that we're seeing spread around the world. This is why everything's going to hell in a handbasket, because of capitalism. So communism is just a simple belief that the working class that produces all the wealth in society can run and control society for the benefit of all of humanity.
The United States has the ability to feed the entire population of the world, and it's generating this massive agricultural output with less than 1% of its workforce. The United States has 19% of the world's real estate market, including 50 million vacant homes. It has 16% of the world's manufacturing output, energy output, and banking assets. You have in the United States the productive capacity necessary to generate in a very short space of time an economy of abundance if this vast capacity were planned democratically by the working class.
Marx said, to be radical is to grasp something at its root. This system is dragging us backwards. And so the most logical, reasonable political idea for anyone to have now is to be entirely opposed to it. And that's why we're communists. That's why I'm a communist.
C'est-à-dire soit l'inflation, l'économie qui est complètement en faillite en ce moment, la Covid qui a lieu. On a un stade où est-ce que les gens en ont assez. Il faut clairement représenter concrètement que nous sommes des communistes. Nous allons être de l'avant, puis on va mener la bataille jusqu'à la fin.
I had a daughter 1.5 years ago. It's very fun. It gives you a new perspective on life. It makes things much more important because you see this little person that you want to protect and give everything for. And my daughter loves listening to revolutionary songs. and she loves Lenin. I don't want her to grow up as a revolutionary. I want her to enjoy her life to the fullest. I want her to grow up in a world without oppression, without constant conflict, without murder, without waking up every day in some sort of existential crisis. It is my personal responsibility to do everything in my power to overthrow capitalism. And the only way I see that as possible is through organizing and joining the Revolutionary Communist International, building this worldwide movement to overthrow capitalism everywhere, to overthrow imperialism. The only people who can change anything is us. I am a worker, and I am also a revolutionary Marxist. And the choice is ours. What future we're going to have? Are we going to have socialism, or are we going to have barbarism? We need to fight for that here and now.
The point about being a communist, however, is not enough to have it in your gut. It's not enough to sort of feel the anger. You have to understand what's happening and why it's happening. You must understand history, understand economics, understand the philosophical outlook of Marxism, understand history, and take those lessons and bring them forward again today, and build the organization that we need. We are being presented with a second historical opportunity globally. Let's not waste it this time.
Let us be together and recognize another world is possible if we come together to understand that, understand the power we've got, and achieve that decent, better society where everyone matters.
Almost all of the wealth and much of the income is going to the top 1%.
After 2008, this took the form of the rise of so-called left or socialist movements around Podemos in Spain, Syriza in Greece, Corbyn in Britain, Sanders in the United States. Some of these leaders were talking about socialism. They seem to offer a radical, at least in words, a radical alternative to the capitalist crisis. But they were all proven to be not enough, to be unable to really challenge the crisis of capitalism, precisely because all of these leaders, if they had one thing in common, is that the language was very radical, and this made them very attractive, but they still limited themselves to trying to offer a solution within the limits of the capitalist system without really challenging the private property of the means of production.
I move that Hillary Clinton be selected as the nominee of the Democratic Party for President of the United States.
It's easy to say, well, they're just weak, they're cowardly, well, let's not turn this into a moral judgment. I'm not interested in moral judgments. This is not a question of somebody being brave or cowardly or anything like that. It's a political question. They don't even talk about socialism anymore, most of them. They don't even talk about capitalism anymore. They talk about neoliberalism. In other words, what we're fighting against is not capitalism, but some kind of deviation from the norm. It isn't any such thing. The crisis of capitalism does not permit serious reforms. That's the short answer. And the real reason is very simple. It is this. The left reformists, the same as the right reformists, believe that it is possible to achieve what we want to achieve without breaking with capitalism, without expropriating the bosses and the bankers. And that's a fatal mistake.
Such a hatred towards the entire establishment, combined with such an utter criminal silence from the reformists and the left. And I think this is actually one of the defining, most generalized features of the period everywhere.
La primera respuesta que buscaron fue votar a los reformistas, pero como ya lo dije, la primera ola del reformismo, la ola rosa como algunos le llaman, es un significado de esta conciencia que ha ido buscando una alternativa para acabar con la crisis, pero que no lo ha encontrado en los reformistas. Acto seguido, cuando se presenta nuevamente a las elecciones, las masas prefieren abstenerse antes de volver a votar a los reformistas porque no han solucionado absolutamente nada. Y eso ha traído como consecuencia algunos algunos ascensos de la derecha en diferentes países. Yo creo que los más claros es El Salvador con Nayib Bukele y Milei en Argentina. Bueno, sin embargo, esto no refleja, como lo dicen los reformistas, un giro a la derecha de las masas. Por el contrario, las masas están sacando conclusiones, se arriman en aproximaciones sucesivas a buscar alternativas. Primero al reformismo, si no encuentran ahí, se abstienen y empiezan a girar sobre alternativas.
If you rely on establishment liberals as being part of your voter base, part of your coalition, then of course, you know, that you're empowering them almost to drive a wedge in that base. Politics now is basically, I think the election in America shows this, is that people are rejecting status quo, establishment liberalism, neoliberalism, whatever you want to call it. Everyone recognises that they're poorer, everyone feels poorer, everyone feels like things are not improving. And if you can't offer an alternative to that as the left, and the right appears to offer an alternative to that, then the right will win. For me, when you say like you can basically trace back Trump and Johnson and everything to Corbyn's decision to be pragmatic in that moment, or as Engels would say, opportunistic, I think that's true. I think if we had prioritised controlling the Labour Party, then I think that the forces that have emerged since 2019, the more right-wing forces, would have been allayed.
The Soviet Union itself is no more. This is a victory for democracy and freedom. It's a victory for the moral force of our values.
But, you know, as a systematic idea that has some dynamism and some real vitality, liberal democracy is really all there is now.
30 years ago, with the collapse of Stalinism, it seemed to the ruling class that socialism was discredited, that communism was a dirty word. In reality, for this generation of young people, what is a dirty word is capitalism in their own experience. In Britain, for instance, according to an opinion poll, 29% of young people think that communism is the best economic system that there can be.
Det är faktiskt 75% av alla svenskar säger att landet går åt fel håll. Men frågan är, vad drar man för slutsatser av detta? Slutsatsen kan inte vara att vi ska vänta på någon fackföreningsbyråkrat som aldrig i livet kommer att kalla till strejk. Eller att vi ska vänta på att Socialdemokraterna ska göra något. Eller att vi ska vänta på att Vänsterpartiet ska göra något. Det är ingen som kommer lösa den här situationen åt oss.
Turn them! Go ahead, turn them! Go ahead!
What is your dream for the future?
For my kids to be able to live on their own. To be able to survive in this economy.
There's a layer of the population out there that did look to Trump because he seemed to be an opponent of the status quo. He was offering to change things up. And when he lets down their aspirations for an improvement in their living standards, they're going to be looking for change in a different direction. It's a question of whether we're strong enough to pose the communist alternative at that stage when people are going to be radicalizing dramatically towards the left. That is what's coming on the horizon, and that is what we urgently need to prepare for.
Der Kommunismus ist in der Schweiz lange absent gewesen. Mit den 40er Jahren ist das letzte Mal eine kommunistische Partei verboten worden. Und wir nehmen diesen roten Faden wieder auf und wir wollen ihn zurückgeben an Tausende von jungen und älteren Leuten, die heute spüren, man muss jetzt anfangen zu kämpfen. Und was wir haben, ist ein ganzer Schatz von Erfahrungen. Wir haben Traditionen von wie man sich organisiert, wie man muss kämpfen. Und unsere Aufgabe ist, die zurück in die Schweizer Arbeiterklasse zu tragen. Nicht im Moment noch nicht in die ganze Arbeiterklasse, sondern einfach in die Minderheit, die sich jetzt am Politisieren ist.
What we're aiming for is the minority. It's a minority of a minority of a minority of the most conscious, class-conscious workers and youth. And what they desperately need now is not to be told ABC stuff. What they need to be told what they need is explanations. Why is society as it is? Why is the world as it is? And what's our proposal? What's our alternative? I can never in my life, I've never seen a moment in history where the ideas of Marxism were more appealing to people. But the youth in particular are wide open to the ideas of Marxism and communism because the superiority of those ideas have been demonstrated amply, but also because they find a burning need now to a body of ideas, a doctrine, a body of theory, which actually acts as an important weapon in the struggle against capitalism. And without that weapon of theory, as Lenin explained, of course no victory ultimately will be possible.
Do you want to change the world? Join the communists!
What we're doing is we're saying to people, are you a communist? Do you want to see a radical, fundamental change of society? And do you want to help us fight for that?
Capitalism's crumbling, join the revolution! Like capitalism, join the communists!
And I saw a poster that said, are you a communist? And I was like, holy shit, like, we can say that? Like, people can just say they're communists? Like, that is so sick. I guess I would, like, say I'm a kind of a communist. I wasn't, like, super into theory or anything at the time, but I joined right away. Yeah, it was just so exciting. Yeah.
The response we had was phenomenal. That Are You a Communist poster was posing a direct question to people. Are you a communist? And what we found was that word was resonating with people. Yes, finally, I think I am. And it was on that basis that we met thousands of people who wanted to get organized and wanted to join our party. And the key thing there was this wide awakening to the idea that there needs to be an alternative to the system. And for a whole layer, they were like, yeah, and I think that alternative is communism.
Marx explained that the task of the emancipation of the working class is the task of the workers themselves. That's true. However, if you leave it like that in a general sense, it's not sufficient. Because in order to change society, the workers need organization. Workers understand that very well. I mean, they've understood that for over 100 years or 200 years. Starting with the trade unions or even the Chartists in Britain, and attempted to get a working class organization capable, an instrument capable of changing society. And of course, the most advanced instrument known to history is the party, the Revolutionary Party, particularly the Bolshevik Party of Lenin and Trotsky, which is our model. Now, why the party? Well, to put it simply, listen. The working class is an enormous power, tremendous power. People don't understand this. The workers themselves don't understand it. Look, without the kind permission of the working class, not a light bulb shines, not a wheel turns, not a telephone rings. This is a colossal power. However, it's only a power in potentially, okay? In order to become an actual power, a real power, it has to be organized. Let me give you a parallel from nature. Steam is a power. You know, it's the basis of the Industrial Revolution, after all. It moves the whole of society. Yes, but steam is only a power if it is concentrated in one particular spot. Without that, it becomes dissipated uselessly in the air. And that's happened many times. Even in recent history. There have been many things in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh and so on, in Egypt, where the workers could have taken power. They'd have had this instrument, they'd have had the Bolshevik Party. They didn't, and therefore the colossal power of the masses, which was completely demonstrated, which overthrew the old regimes as if they were nothing, like a man squatting a mosquito. Yes, but without the party, that was lost, and it's a tragedy. And this lesson must be learned. The working class must have a revolutionary party and a revolutionary leadership, as in 1917, in order to succeed. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to achieve victory against that. After all, we're faced with a powerful enemy in the form of the bourgeois state, which is a formidable force. And they're certainly organized and centralized. You better believe it. And therefore, we also must build a force which is organized and centralized and disciplined, and with a sufficient level of understanding in order to carry out this very serious struggle to change society.
there is a burning need for a revolutionary communist program, and for this reasons we are launching a revolutionary communist party in Pakistan this year, in which we will take a revolutionary program to the working class of Pakistan, to students, to oppressed nationalities, to women, and every oppressed section of Pakistan. And then we put forward the program of a class war to overthrow capitalism in Pakistan, to seize all the means of production in Pakistan, to take over all the banks, multinational companies, all the industrial base of Pakistan, all the big business should be seized and should be under the democratic control of workers. All the big feudal lands and big farms should be nationalized under the workers' control. This is the plan forward to end poverty and misery in Pakistan, and to only way forward is to overthrow capitalism. There is no political party with this political program. There is no political party with any revolutionary program to overthrow capitalism.
Yeah, I was brought up in an ordinary working class household. Yes, workers should they create the wealth after all. The working class creates the wealth. But it's the capitalists who reap all the profits, and that was an infelt anger of myself. Why should it be? Why should it be? And it shouldn't be. And therefore we have to do something about it. We can't just talk about it and be critical and angry. We have to, organize and fight to change society.
Un giorno metteremo da parte questa messa in scena di parlamenti borghesi e formeremo un vero governo operaio basato sui consigli, dove i lavoratori non si limitano a mettere una scheda in un'urna ogni 5 anni, ma discutono e decidono nelle assemblee ad ogni livello. Si chiama democrazia consiliare, democrazia operaia. È la forma più alta di democrazia che la storia abbia mai conosciuto, come nella Comune di Parigi, come in URSS nei primi anni dopo la rivoluzione. Dicevano Marx ed Engels nel Manifesto: tremino le classi dominanti al pensiero di una rivoluzione comunista. I proletari non hanno niente da perdere, che le loro catene hanno un mondo intero da guadagnare. Viva il PCR! Viva l'Internazionale Comunista Rivoluzionaria! Proletari di tutto il mondo, unitevi! Costruiamo un grande partito e la vittoria sarà nostra!
Vi har en chans, baserat på den revolutionära process som pågår just nu, att faktiskt avskaffa kapitalismen. Om vi inte gör det under den här perioden, när folk faktiskt försöker att förändra samhället, så kommer den chansen att gå om intet. Det kommer liksom inte fortsätta vara folk ute på gatan i hur många årtionden som helst. Så vi har den här chansen. Och det finns ingen annan som bygger en revolutionär kommunistisk international än våran organisation. Den gamla arbetarrörelsen har sedan länge övergett kampen för socialism, för kommunism. Det finns kommunister runt om och vi säger till dem: vi har de här idéerna, vi vill kämpa tillsammans med er, vi vill organisera er. Låt oss kämpa tillsammans.
We begin tonight with the Middle East in flames. Israel has formally declared war.
Israel has ordered more than 1 million civilians in northern Gaza to evacuate to the south as troops build up along the border.
The Pentagon now sending an aircraft carrier strike group, part of President Biden's promise of rock-solid and unwavering support.
I want the people of Israel, the people of the world, to know where the United States stands.
A siege is appropriate, cutting off power, cutting off water. Sakir?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right. It is an ongoing situation.
I think particularly in the West, because of the role of Western imperialism, both historically in setting up and facilitating the Zionist state, but today arming and financially backing everything that Israel is doing, particularly in the West amongst young people, they are enraged.
Is genocide self-defense? No! Ethnic cleansing self-defense? No! Rishi Sunak, the Tories, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party stand behind genocide.
that has made a whole layer of people very, very open to the revolutionary solution to that crisis. And so for us, we have been able to connect with that, with our slogans, with our explanation historically for how the occupation came about, and also the only path forward today.
Israeli strikes have now targeted refugee camps.
Well, in northern Gaza, many people have been killed in an early morning strike on the Jabalia refugee camp.
What's happening in Palestine and what has happened since the 7th of October is so extreme. It's the most extreme example of how far the ruling class will go in order to protect their interests.
The UK government does billion-pound arms deals with the reactionary Israeli regime, directly providing weapons and resources that are being used to murder Palestinians.
But now Israel is saying it wants to launch an incursion into Rafah.
And now more people are going to die from famine and disease in Gaza than they will from the bombs and bullets of the Israelis. That's our government, and they do not represent us whatsoever.
Protests against the war in Gaza have been taking center stage at college campuses.
We are here because we want the Queen Mary to end its part in the ongoing history of the Palestinian oppression.
The question that we are posed with then is, if this is as far as they will go to do it, we have no alternative but to tear that whole system down. And that realization and that conclusion has been drawn for tens of thousands of people all around the world.
We shared the IMT statement on Gaza, exposing the lies of the ruling class. The bourgeois press used that to attack social democracy and force them to clear themselves from these leftist elements that would be us, and force them to really repeat all the lies the bourgeois and the media told about us word by word. The investigations that were carried out by the state prosecutor against me actually and another comrade, Alex, also show how the bourgeoisie really intends to criminalize all solidarity with Palestine and really set an example for this on what happens if you speak out.
We had our founding Congress in Philadelphia. We marched through the downtown area, and local media outlets called it a communist mega march. This was shared online also by Elon Musk. And after the launch event that we had back in February of last year.
Well, comrades, you are all officially founding members of the RCA.
The video of our march through downtown Brooklyn was viewed 200 million times. The state chair of the Minnesota Republican Party has made several statements about the RCA, warning about the need to curb our influence and calling on Democrats and Republicans to unite to expose the threat of communism that is on the rise.
Nous sommes bien en 2024, 80 ans après l'interdiction du communisme en Suisse. Nous assistons à la naissance d'un nouveau parti révolutionnaire.
Als wir mit den Palästina-Fahnen auf die Straße gegangen sind, haben uns in den ersten Tagen die Leute umarmt und gesagt, endlich steht jemand an, endlich knickt jemand nicht ein. Und das ist das, was wir können. Nicht, weil wir besonders mutig sind, sondern weil wir erstens die marxistische Tradition auch in der Frage des Palästina-Konflikts haben, weil wir eine internationale haben, weil wir zusammen die korrekte Position verteidigen. verteidigt haben. Der ganze Medienzirkus und all die Aufmerksamkeit, die wir überkommen in den Medien, das ist nicht nur positiv, weil die meisten Sachen, die sie schreiben, sind einfach völlig falsch. Oder sie zitieren uns falsch, weil sie am Schluss uns politisch schaden wollen. Aber sie können noch so viel Mist gegen uns rühren. Was sie nicht verhindern können, ist, dass die Leute die Artikel lesen und sehen, da stehen die Leute an und verteidigen die konsequente Oppositionslinie, eine Linie, die die Interessen der Arbeiterklasse verteidigt, eine Linie, die aufhören will, die das ganze System über den Haufen rühren will.
Ces nouveaux communistes s'inscrivent dans les philosophies de Marx, Engels ou encore Trotsky. À terme, l'idée est de rendre le pouvoir à la classe ouvrière. De défiler sous les enseignes qui sont l'incarnation même du capitalisme, qu'est-ce que ça vous fait ?
Toutes ces enseignes, ce qui est produit, ce qu'elles vendent, en fait, c'est pas produit par des capitalistes, c'est produit par des travailleurs et des travailleuses partout dans le monde qui sont liés autour d'une chaîne de production mondiale et qui, en fait, ensemble, pourraient en prendre le contrôle.
On ne s'attend pas à que la révolution aura lieu demain, mais ce qu'on peut observer aujourd'hui, c'est qu'il y a un processus de radicalisation qui a lieu sous la surface. Et en tant que Parti communiste révolutionnaire, nous voulons exactement rassembler ces gens-là qui aujourd'hui en ras-le-bol de ce système.
Now, I think for a bit of engagement, a bit of dialogue, really, which is what we're after. So, Sola, is there anything?
Great, thank you. Well, I respect your opinions and thank you for coming onto the show to take part in a discussion.
So after the interview I had with Suella Braverman, the response was incredible. It's something that I could have never predicted. I don't think any of us could have known just how far that interview would go and how many people would respond in such an emotional way to it.
Is that what you're saying? It's totally detached to October the 7th and Israel's response?
The only thing that is detached, I would say, is actually your views and your approach to this whole situation and the whole of the Tory government, because the Conservative government is facilitating and supporting a genocide. And not just that, it's also overseeing a horrific set of policies, austerity policies, that are damaging everyone's lives in Britain today. You are the one, and your government is completely out of touch with what actually the majority of people in Britain think about what's happening. The majority of people in Britain do not support what Israel is doing and actually want us to stop sending weapons.
I'll say I don't think what I said was that impressive, but it was the truth. And we never get to see that. We never get access to people like Suella Braverman.
What is your message to the majority of people in Britain who don't support you, who hate the Tories, who hate you specifically? And you posing those questions is exactly what makes students in Cambridge think, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to talk to any war criminal. You're a liar. Let's talk about the broader context of this, which is Suella Braverman lecturing anyone about racism. I don't think anyone's going to listen to that, basically. I want to grow this encampment. I want to grow a movement.
Well, it's quite strong stuff. I mean, as far
criminal.
Yeah, I mean, so
yeah, you are a war criminal.
I think what really struck a chord with millions of people, literally, how is it possible for a young girl could absolutely destroy this experienced, polished, professional politician? Ben Glinetsky was sitting in the next room, and in the same room there was Braverman's team of advisors, you know? The people that tell her what to say. They were in a state of panic. They were saying things like, we're losing it, we're losing it. This is going badly. We're not going to get this back again. And they were quite right. You might not believe this, but I think it's true. Even the most inexperienced young comrade in our ranks, you will find, is on a higher level than even the most polished bourgeois politician. That's a fact.
Actually, I was at a university encampment when the election was called an encampment for Palestine.
Keir Starmer and the Labour Party have decided to spend all of the last couple of days purging any pro-Palestinian voice from the Labour Party as well.
And
And it provoked a lot of discussions in the camp and then also amongst ourselves as comrades. And really we started to think, well, you know, suddenly we have a bit of an opportunity here.
We are running this campaign because the whole of the political establishment in Britain are completely out of touch on the question of Gaza, and they're completely out of touch with what workers and young people actually need in this country. We stand for healthcare and not bombs. We stand for education and not bombs, and investing in us. We have war criminals to bring down and a world to win.
We knew that actually this campaign, if we can run it well, it can really connect with the disgust, with the position of the Labour Party over Palestine. And then we did it. And it was, again, incredible.
If elected as an MP, I'm pledging to take an average worker's wage, which in East London at the moment is about £32,000 a year. And that's because I mean it when I say it's time for a clear out to sweep out all of these careerists and opportunists. We are revolutionaries and not politicians. And I'm going to fight in the interests of the working class and young people.
I mean, when we were canvassing, the first thing people would say is, are you from the Labour Party? And we would say no. And then people would beam and they would say, okay, now let's talk. The cost of living crisis going up, inflation, climate chaos, all of this is on the minds of people because there is a connection, I would say, with what is happening in Palestine and the whole Palestinian movement growing and the general anger in society.
Oh, so you do care about people dying.
I said that at the beginning.
But you
I care about...
You're a hypocrite. If you cared about people dying, if you cared about people dying, thousands of people are dying.
And that means nationalising all of these major corporations, all of the public services, and using the money that exists and the resources that exist to actually give people a decent life.
Revolution!
We would find that Palestine initially would be the first thing we would talk to people about, and then it just spread, it spiraled out. I think it was Rosa Luxemburg, she said, you know, socialism or barbarism, that's what's facing us. And that was true then, 100 years ago, but it's also true now. We ran openly as revolutionary communists and we had the hammer and sickle everywhere and people were so enthusiastic.
The British government can find money for Israel and to support it, but there's no money for what we actually need.
I think the main lesson is you've got to pose yourself fully and truthfully as a revolutionary alternative. And so I think we're all very proud of the campaign and we learned a lot through it, how to speak to people, how to pose our ideas in a way that actually answers the problems in their lives.
This is a truly historic occasion. It is a milestone in the development of our international. We are proud to stand on the great traditions of the Communist International. We trace our roots far back to the founding days of our movement, when Marx and Engels wrote the great Communist Manifesto. Today we are retying the knot of history at a time when the world revolution is beginning to develop. Welcome to the founding conference of the Revolutionary Communist International.
The crisis which Marx had predicted based on the way capitalism works, the contradictions of the system, finally arrived in the form of the First World War. In 1914, the bloodshed that ensued for the next 4 years, which was followed by a wave of revolution in one country after another. It wasn't just the Russian Revolution, there was the German in 1918, the Hungarian 1919, the Italian 1920, and many others. There was an organization which had been created, formally speaking, on the basis of Marxism, which was known as the Second International, the international that gathered the socialist and Labour parties, social democracy. But at the moment when they were most needed, the outbreak of the First World War, instead of doing what they'd promised to do, which was to transform the war between nations into a war between the classes, they all lined up behind their own ruling classes and supported the carnage of workers against other workers from other countries. That's why Lenin drew the conclusion that it was necessary to build a new international, to go back to the genuine ideas of Marx and Engels, i.e. the ideas of genuine revolutionary communism. The First World War was followed, as I said, by a wave of revolutions. A huge opportunity was presented to the working class globally to transform the world. To do that, you need an international organization, and that's what the Comintern was. It was an organization of genuine revolutionary communists who had the aim of building mass revolutionary parties in all countries to lead the working class, as the Bolsheviks had done in 1917. That was the significance of the Comintern. The struggle for socialism is a world struggle. Capitalism is a world system, and the struggle against it must be international. What we have is the revolution defeated in one country after another. And by the time you get, say, to the mid-1920s, you have a Soviet Union which is surrounded by hostile capitalist regimes. In fact, the situation began to swing one country after another against the revolution, with the rise of fascism in Italy, the Nazism in Germany in the 30s, the defeat of the Spanish movement in the 30s. All this led to a greater and greater isolation of the Soviet Union, and that was one of the key elements, clearly, which prepared the bureaucratic degeneration, i.e. the rising of a bureaucracy within the Soviet Union, and basically a burying of the real lessons of the Comintern. All the debates that were led by Lenin, and which Trotsky played a big role in as well, all those ideas were buried and forgotten, the real essential ideas of those congresses. And we have a bureaucratically led international, which became less and less important. If you consider the first 4 congresses took place between 1919 and 1922, in the middle of a civil war, they gave such importance to the congresses. After that, you only have another 3 congresses. In 1943, that international is dissolved by Stalin signing away the international, dissolving it without even consulting its members, showing that they had no real need for an international organization. And in effect, you had the collapse of the revolutionary kernel, let's say, of that organization. And then, unfortunately, for decades, a misrepresentation of what genuine Leninism is.
And with the degeneration of the Russian Revolution under Stalin and the destruction of the International by Stalin, Trotsky attempted under very difficult circumstances to gather together the small forces that remained loyal to Bolshevism and Leninism and to create the basis for a new international, which would be the Fourth International. And this was finally launched officially in 1938. However, one has to say, looking back on it, that this was really a failure. It was except for the ideas of Trotsky, which still remain absolutely valid. As an organization, the Fourth International never really took off. It always remained a small group of mainly small sects. And the reason for the failure was due to the failure of leadership, actually. Now, when I was young, I joined the Trotskyists in South Wales, a member of Ted Grant's group. And Ted Grant actually was the main guiding light in my life, my friend and comrade and teacher. But Ted was the only one out of the whole bunch of the original leaders of the Fourth that really understood what Trotsky was saying and really understood Trotsky's position. The others, on the other hand, they failed to understand Trotsky's method. They just repeated like parrots what he wrote in the transitional program. Ted Grant is the only one that really stood out against the stream and maintained the international. And of course, I remained loyal to Ted's position ever since. We were expelled from the international, of course, naturally. But nevertheless, the ideas of the Fourth still existed. They still exist. The Fourth International, in that sense, still exists and still continued in our organization. And I would say only in our organization, which is the Revolutionary Communist International.
To be connected with comrades worldwide is amazing. Like, I am chatting with people from France and from Pakistan. It's just so cool to have that sense of solidarity across nations. It's amazing. And for it to be revolutionary communist too, it's very clear in what our politics are.
There's no country that can solve its problems on its own. And because the system is a global system, the struggle must be global, the struggle must be international, and we must bring together all the genuine revolutionaries from all countries as one united force, as one revolutionary communist international, working to change this world and to finally put an end to the nightmare of class society, the nightmare of capitalism, and begin to lay the basis for a new society based on rational planning and control of the wealth by those who produce it.
We're very modest in our aims. We just want to turn the world upside down, that's all. Of course, that's not an easy task to be achieved, and it will not be achieved overnight. We have to accept the fact that for historical reasons, the forces of genuine Marxism have been thrown back quite a long way. We must accept that. We must accept that nowadays we are, the genuine forces of Trotskyism, of Marxism, are reduced to a tiny minority, a minority of a minority of a minority. Therefore, we must set ourselves modest but realizable tasks. And on the basis of correct ideas and correct methods and correct tactics and strategy, which we learned from Ted Grant and which we are proud to continue, on the basis of correct methods, we've actually succeeded quite a lot in recent years in building quite a strong base in many countries in the world, including the United States, Canada, Pakistan and other places. And in Britain, of course, we've begun to develop a very strong force. Our task is not to overthrow capitalism, that's beyond our means. It's not even to win the majority of the working class, that's also beyond our present means. It's to win the vanguard of the youth, which today, the young people in particular, are wide open to the ideas of communism and Marxism in a way that I've never seen before in my life. And this is the thing which we've plugged into, which we've connected with. Lenin said, "He who has the youth has the future." By winning the vanguard, the advanced layers, that layer in turn will reach the mass. Through the factories, through the schools, through the universities, through the council estates and so on. And of course, above all, on the basis of Marxist theory. The power of ideas, the power of Marxist ideas. That's the key to success, which we've started, which we've begun to have considerable success, and we'll have an even bigger success once the events begin. But of course, the forces for a mass international, as was the case after the creation of the Communist International in 1919, the mass forces can only come from great events. Great events which will shake the working class from top to bottom and create the conditions, first of all for the conditions of a mass Marxist tendency, and eventually for the creation of mass Marxist Bolshevik parties in every country in the world. And this, of course, is our fundamental aim, which we are all striving to achieve. Provided we stick to the correct ideas, we will succeed in this. The most powerful thing in the world is not armies or navies or air forces. It is the power of ideas, great ideas. And no idea is more powerful than an idea whose time has come. Sometimes I hear people saying, not usually our own comrades, they're too sensible, but some people say, yeah, well, it's all very well, these old ideas, but don't we need new ideas? I have studied the works of Marxism all my life. That's a long time now. I've also made it my business to study the so-called alternatives. And I'll tell you this, I have never found any body of idea, none, that could remotely compare in their profundity, in their scientific exactness, in their sheer brilliance, than the ideas of Marx and Engels.
Marx and Engels, they said, the ideas of the ruling class are, in any age, the ruling ideas. And I would say the ideas at universities, even though they on the surface can seem critical or anti-capitalist, they are the ideas of the ruling class. The original ruling idea, the bourgeois idea of history, is that history is the story of great men, of kings, generals, popes, heroes. The battles we see in history are battles over ethics and morals and great ideas.
all human thought is in human heads. People support it because people use the language that converts them, that makes them want to support it, that makes them want to fight, that makes them want to march, that makes them want to support. That matters, and only an individual can do it.
And according to this view, history is merely a series of unconnected random events. There is no change, there is no progress, there are just events that you can study isolated.
So much of history is caused not by objective material conditions, it is caused by stories in our imagination. And while one story defeats another, it's very often down to chance. And not, again, the stories themselves, I think, are a powerful engine of history, and they are extremely unpredictable and sometimes irrational.
And this view of history is very convenient for those who defend the present system. They want to present the system that we live in today that as something that has always existed and always will exist. Like, this is how it has always been, and therefore, like, this is how it will always be.
Probably the most dangerous fantasy that humans ever came up with is the idea of the ability to create a perfect world. Not only because it causes you to feel very dissatisfied with the actual world around us, but because it's an open check to do the most horrendous things in the world.
The task of these bourgeois historians is to preserve the existing order. And that means to use history to justify the present system. And that also means that the more capitalism enters into a historical crisis, an existential crisis, the less scientific bourgeois historians become. Because they have to justify a system that has historically outlived itself.
Right. History is not a science. It can't be a science because we can't rerun events in a laboratory and see if consistently war breaks out in 1939 with or without Hitler. So what we're doing when we study the past, as a great Oxford philosopher of history, R.G. Collingwood, said, is we're kind of reconstituting past human experience from the bits and pieces that have been left behind. And as we do that, it's a very subtle process of mental reenactment of experience.
Bourgeois historians cannot be scientific because if they were, they would have to accept the idea that all previous socio-economic systems have ceased to exist, and also this system will. When Engels, he compared Marx's discoveries concerning history with those of Darwin, and that, I think, is the essence of what is historical materialism. He said, just as Darwin discovered the law of development of organic nature, so Marx discovered the law of development of human history. That mankind must first of all eat, drink, have shelter and clothing before it can pursue politics, science, art, religion, and so on. And that is what differentiates us from all these other ideas of history. If you want to understand ideas, the state, philosophy, religion of a period, you first of all need to look at how did these people actually live? How did they produce the food that they had to eat? How did they organize production? Marx and Engels, they looked at history as different stages of modes of production, exactly based on how they produced. Primitive communism, slave society, feudalism, some places is Asiatic mode of production, and capitalism. There is this myth that Marxism is just economics, but that's not true. Marxism is the understanding of the interrelation between the material conditions as the base and the structures, the state, ideas, religion, philosophy, and so on.
When the capitalist class was progressive, 18th and 19th century, they produced great thinkers. Diderot, Voltaire, Rousseau, Ricardo, Adam Smith, great philosophers, Hegel, Kant. Now, nothing. Nothing worth spitting on. Nothing worth Dare I mention postmodernism? Dare I mention? Look at the miserable trash which they serve up in the universities these days. These poor, unfortunate philosophy students who, as I say, my heart bleeds for.
Well, identity politics is a very good tool for the ruling class. To attack the left is actually their main weapon to do so. And that's because that many within the left reformists, they are completely influenced by these ideas. And that comes to the end that they are not believing in that you need to fight the capitalist society, class society to overthrow oppression. Instead, they think that the way to tackle oppression is to convince as many people as possible to stop having oppressive ideas or oppressive behaviors. Is through quotas, representations.
Growing up gay in a small southern town, I was lucky to have a wonderful and accepting family. I always struggled with the idea that I might not be able to discuss my personal life at work. Imagine my surprise when I was taking my oath at CIA and I noticed a rainbow on then-Director Brennan's lanyard.
I think the best answer for sexism in politics is more women in politics and getting more women who are out there standing up, speaking out.
I was like 16 years old when I became a communist because I saw the inability of like identity politics of the liberal feminist movement to secure any kind of actual gains for women, for LGBT people, for anybody.
Youth, is the key in that sense to future developments, but they need to be educated and trained in past experiences and also the fundamental ideas of Marxism. Trains them, educates them, raises their level, and also increases the thirst for them to read and study of past events, past failures of workers' movements, learn the lessons to prepare the ground for successful revolutionary movements for the future.
Well, Marx actually said that ideas become a material force when they grip the minds of the masses. You see, that's a very important idea. And ultimately, it's the power of ideas which will guarantee our success. Now, one of the things which attracted me to Marxism as a young man was the colossal superiority of the ideas of Marxism, Marxist theory, particularly Marxist philosophy, but also Marxist economics. And by the way, you can compare those ideas today to any of the bourgeois ideas, and you see this superiority. Nowadays, all the theories of the so-called economic theories of the bourgeois have been consigned by the bourgeois themselves. They've been consigned to the dustbin. They haven't got a clue. They've got no idea. There's complete bankruptcy. The most modern document you can read today is the Communist Manifesto, which was written in 1848, 47 actually, by two young men. You read those ideas now. Now you compare those to any idea, any bourgeois theories put forward. You read those ideas, and I'll tell you in advance, they will merely have a mere historical significance. Actual practical application today, zero. But you read the Communist Manifesto, and it's as if it was written yesterday. It's as if it's written today. What the manifesto describes is not the world of 1848, but the world today. Now that itself should tell you the colossal superiority of Marxism and the power of ideas. And of course, many people today on the left, there's a bankruptcy, there's a vacuum on the left, by the way. The reason for the vacuum on the left is very simple. Because they've abandoned, they never had any theory, they never had an understanding of Marxism actually, and now they're in a complete mess. They're incapable of offering anything serious. On the other hand, it's the ideas of Marxism which now are triumphant, which now are recognized by many people, even by bourgeois economists and so on. So here's the power of ideas, and that is precisely what attracts the people that we are trying to win, which is the advanced layer of the youth in particular, which is looking for these ideas. They're desperately looking for solutions, for answers, for explanations of the crisis, which nobody other than ourselves, other than the Marxists, are able to provide. And that is the key to our success. That's what people are looking, that's what serious people are looking for. And therefore, yes, it is tremendous. The power of ideas ultimately is decisive. As Lenin once said, Marxism is all-powerful because it is true.
You can say anything you want in this organization, and we'll discuss it out. And we've done that many times in the past. Patiently and seriously, and that's why we are where we are today. A few weeks ago, I was at the British Congress. There was a comrade there, I think it's from Wales, it was his first Congress. He said, I've been a member of the Labour Party for many years. That I've seen Congresses, I've seen herd mentality, but this is something different. This is conviction. Yes, comrades. What we have is a deep ongoing unity of conviction, which is the most powerful form of unity. And it's a conquest that we're proud of. It's the result of decades of effort. Yes, and many, many, many discussions in which the level of the whole international has been raised. I think Alan said the other day, he and some other comrades started out 30 years ago, being the weakest force on the left. No apparatus, very little of full-time staff and so on. What set us apart? It was our ideas. They ridiculed Alan and Ted for writing Reason and Revolt and Bolshevism. They ridiculed our emphasis on theory. They were real activists and revolutionaries. You know? See, they don't know what they're talking about. They didn't realize that they're attacking our strong side. But that is what brought us where we are today. Every step of the way. And it's the power of our ideas which is now revealing itself more and more intensely in direct correlation with the intensity of the crisis of capitalism. And we're beginning to gain an echo. It's still early days. But one door after another is opening up for us. But it's not because we're lucky or we're slick. Not because we have nice designs and big banners. Not because we have a massive center now in London and centers all over the world with hundreds of full-timers. We are proud of that, but that's not the reason. No, it's because of our ideas. That's the only justification for our existence. And now we are exiting our prehistory. And of course, it would be foolish to go too far and get big-headed, to overstretch ourselves and to relegate theory and propaganda work. No, theory is much more important now as a guide to action. But it would be equally foolish to stay timid and to think small. We need to get rid of that mentality. We need to be bold. And it's inevitable that we will make exaggerations and mistakes, but we can overcome these. And we can learn from them. There's comrade, I was talking with comrade Alejandra, I think, from Canada, who was, we were discussing our intervention in the movement, in the encampment movement. So maybe we had been a little bit too timid. She says something very profound. She says, you know, it's like we've been swimming at the shallow end of the pool. Now we have to go on the deep end, and it's a little bit scary. I think that's a very exact metaphor. We have to leave the safe shores that we're used to. But we also have to remind ourselves that our safety was never our, organizational method of work. That wasn't what was keeping us safe. It was the solid rock of Marxist theory, which we will have with us at all times. Goethe said, mankind errs as long as he strives. Yes, we will making mistakes is a part of learning. We have the most powerful ideas here. And in the next period, our task is to take them out into the world, into every school and every university, into every neighborhood and every workplace, and boldly announce that the Revolutionary Communist International is here. Thank you, comrades.
I would say that yes, there is an alternative. I think that is a kind of a hanging question in the backs of people's minds. Maybe they're not always conscious that they're asking it, but behind a lot of the way they're interacting with the world, whether they vote or not, whether they go to a protest or not, is just, is this it? Our answer to that is no, this isn't it. And as a result, there is so much that we have to be optimistic about. There's so much suffering and pain on such a scale, you can't put it into words. And we are here to say that there's an explanation for why that has taken place, and we know what the alternative economic system needs to be in order to end that suffering. And that is what the Revolutionary Communist Party and the Revolutionary Communist International is all about. We are a party that you can join. You can organize yourself in a way to change this, but we need you to get there, right? We are far too small at this point in time to do it. We need to build serious political parties, revolutionary communist parties, all across the world.
After many months of discussing the manifesto of the RCI in hundreds of meetings in dozens of countries across the world, after voting the RCI manifesto, which is our guiding principles and statement of ideas at the beginning of this week, the time has now come to formally vote on the launching, on the founding of the Revolutionary Communist International. So can I see all those in favor of founding the Revolutionary Communist International? Anyone against? Any abstention? Okay, comrades, that's unanimous. We have to.
I know a lot of people who are not communists, and one thing I see in all of them is this perpetual feeling of frustration, alienation, and not really having any disorientation. And they go from one thing to another, trying to find happiness in some way, but it always kind of escapes them. We are extremely lucky to have a guiding principle that gives us insight. That gives us insight into the way that the world works. Hegel said that an ignorant man is not free because what confronts him is an alien world. But we're not confronted by an alien world. We feel at home in the world because we understand it and we realize what's necessary. And that's what gives us our energy. And it gives us an unparalleled advantage over everyone else in this society. It's a guiding principle that allows us to go about the world with a deep sense of belonging. Belonging to the world, belonging to an international organism which works across the planet with the same principle, belonging to the general course of history which has brought humanity to this fateful moment, belonging to the traditions of Marx, Engels, Lenin and Trotsky, who carry the seeds of a future society, and which is now the seed that we carry in this organization. And I want to end with a quote by Trotsky on the founding of the Fourth International. He says, "The great events which rush upon mankind will not leave any of these outlived organizations one stone upon another. Only the Fourth International looks with confidence at the future. It is the World Party of Socialist Revolution. There never was a greater task on the earth, and upon every one of us rests a tremendous historical responsibility. Our party demands each of us, totally and completely. Let the Philistines hunt their own individuality in empty space. For the revolutionary to give himself entirely to the party signifies finding himself. Yes, our party takes each one of us wholly, but in return it gives every one of us the highest happiness, the consciousness that one participates in the building of a better future, that one carries on his shoulders a particle of the fate of mankind, and that one's life will not have been lived in vain. The fidelity to the cause of the toilers requires from us the highest devotion to our international party. The party, of course, can also be mistaken. By common effort, we will correct its mistakes. New thousands who will enter its ranks tomorrow will probably be deprived of necessary education. By common effort, we will elevate their revolutionary level. But we will never forget that our party is now the greatest lever of history. Separated from this lever, every one of us is nothing. with this lever in hand, we are all. Thank you, comrades.
Communism, really speaking, is in my blood because I come from a poor working class family. My grandfather was a tin plate worker and a communist. My mother was a communist also all her life, and therefore I was brought up in an atmosphere where people would discuss, for example, the general strike of 1926. So it was very much something I was born into. However, arising out of that instinctive communism, it was instinctive, a class instinct, if you like, I later realized the need to deepen my understanding by developing a knowledge of Marxist theory. I mean, I started to read Capital in Swansea Public Library when I was 14 years of age, still at school. I didn't get very far, I'm afraid. And in particular, when I joined the Young Socialists, as there was the youth wing of the Labour Party, and I came across the Trotskyists in what was in effect Ted Grant's organization, the Revolutionary Socialist League, and I seriously began a study of Marxist theory, and I became not just a Leninist, I was already a Leninist, I became a Trotskyist. But this thorough grounding in Marxist theory is what convinced me not only that communism was right from a class point of view, from an instinctive point of view, but it was correct from a scientific, from a theoretical point of view. And that knowledge of theory has guided me. I must say it's been my guiding star for the rest of my life.